Okay, so we've got this unwarped C made by the patterns. Stack of two long, all of the pentatonic system, the cage system, CAGED, okay, DEGAC, which is an ascending pentatonic scale. The cage system, I figured out, is built with these stack of two longs here that just go 3, 5, 6 root, and the stack of three long here, the stack of three. It says S3S, but really I changed it to S3L. Stack of three long here, which primarily is 2, 3, 5, 6 root 2. And then you just start stacking this one on top of that one again in an unwarped fashion. This chart deals with what happens when you start to take that shape that we were looking at and pushing it through the warp string. So you got this shape here, you got the warp string, and you're going to push that shape up, like almost going into a meat grinder, and then it's going, or a prism, right? And then it's going to change it and make different shapes. So here's our base. The base is always going to be the same, right? So we've got our S2L down here, and then we have our S3L here. But that top S2L, we pushed it through the warp string. Now it moved over. I don't even want to do a directional because it's backwards. The video makes it look backwards. So I'll say to the right or to the left. So it moved to the right 1 fret when it went through the warp string. That means warp the first string. Okay? And we've got A-shaped second inversion here. So it's formed in A shape there. It's formed in E shape. Now this was the way it was. This was the same. Okay, the G shape root was the same, stayed the same, right there. Don't worry about these right now. So warp 2 now, I'm going to push it through again, another string. Now they've both warped over, and we have our C. We have the C there, and we have the DC there. Alright, so the C and D second inversion, this is your little D shape forms up there. That's what the warp is. Push it through, because now both of them are going right. So next to the warp string is going to be this 5-6 here. This is going to be pushed through the warp. Okay. Now, what happened? Why isn't both of these done here? This G has to be pushed through the warp, and it's not going through there. Why is that? I don't know. Hang on. Okay, I know what happened. Instead of pushing the chord through the warp here, we're taking the warp down onto the string, which is effectively the same thing. This is the same as this. That's why we didn't lose anything on the top. So we've got, this is the exercise that I was working on, and doing it in charts, and then eventually want to be able to do it in the guitar. So now we've pushed the warp down. So here we started here, all right, with warp 1. Now we push the warp down to the second string. You see how the W goes down to the third string. So we've warped these tops, and that forms another. What's it forming up here? It forms a second inversion up there. We have an E-shaped first inversion here, which is nice coming off the E shape. All right, we also have a root position right here, which is nice on the E shape. Okay, so this is the warp, and then you move the warp down another one, and it forms other chords. And believe it or not, it goes around the it goes around the cage system. So that's how that works. You can do all sorts of things with the warp string. All right. So that digression took us back to one of the earlier charts that I made. So this is was very useful, is very useful for dealing with, this is normal fretboard now. You have all of the modal inversions in root on here, okay? And then you have all the first inversions here. And this is just a reference chart. So the first inversions are forming these shapes here. So for the Dorian D minor and the key is C, you get this nice three notes up here. And same thing with the Aeolian. You get the same exact shape. Here's the Phrygian, same exact shape. That's where the notes are. So here's your first box there, starting on the fifth. The fifth, all right. So the G is the fifth. Well, the G is the fifth of C, right? But the Phrygian minor is 3, 5, 7. So this is actually first inversion, right? So right there. I mean, that's it's a wonderful chord right there, and that's your E minor. Let's look at it. It says it right there, E minor. These are the two notes you'd hit when you play your E minor. But did you know that it's no coincidence that the top three open strings form the exact same thing as the bottom three when you hit the 5. So a lot of people don't know to hit that 5 with the E minor. We're playing E minor. Get the capo on to simulate your fret nut there. So if you go like this, yeah, it's kind of spooky, but if you play it as a arpeggio, it's the same thing. Now it's first inversion, so it's alright. So just remember, and I don't want to quote people like I know all these quotes, but I remember Bach when I took a class in J.S. Bach once, where I was an engineering major, but I took some music classes, and he said that you don't have to play a chord, you can just arpeggiate it, and it's the same musically. It's good to know the arpeggios, because then you get the inversions built in, So a G-shaped C major arpeggio. It gives you all the inversions, okay, which would be like these chords. It sounds terrible, but that's root, that's first inversion, and then second inversion is cool. It's like this. It's like an A. So this is like an A. That's like an A. This particular first inversion probably is like an E shape, but actually not. I'll tell you what it is. That's your G shape. Because you have a little A right here, according to Caged, it's going to go to a G shape. I did that using a technique that I couldn't figure it out the way I wanted to figure it out. If you can't figure something out the way you want to figure it out, it's okay to go to something that's tried and true, such as the Caged approach. So since I played a second inversion A, I knew that I was in the D box because A goes to G in Caged. So the point of these discussions is to learn guitar and talk about guitar and immerse ourselves.